Hello there and welcome back to Forza Top Gear Labs Rivals, the spin-off where we pit a couple of cars with common ground and close PIs against each other to see which one can come out on top. Today we focus on two legendary sports car races worth astronomical sums of money. Firstly, the single most valuable car in the world, the Ferrari 250 GTO. Price? Well, chassis number 4153 GT sold last year for a record-setting eye-watering $70 million. Insane stuff indeed, although the GTO didn't earn that price tag for nothing. Often considered one-off, if not the greatest Ferrari of all time, the 250 GTO was conceived in 1962 for homologation reasons. In fact, GTO stands for Gran Turismo Omologata, or Gran Turismo Homologated in English, although considering Ferrari only built 39 of the required 100 cars, fooling the FIA using jumping chassis numbers and moving the cars between locations to be unlawfully homologated, the car didn't quite perhaps fit its name. What it did do, however, is dominate. Debuting at the 12 Hours of Sebring, it achieved an overall second place despite racing amongst prototype class cars. From there it went from strength to strength, winning the International Championship for GT cars in 1962, 63 and 64, every single year it was used, along with winning the Tour de France Automobile in 1963 and 1964, being part of the 9 years of dominance Ferrari had over that particular race. It's also worth noting the 250 GTO was one of the final ever competitive front-engine sports car races. What's even more surprising is this was produced with older parts, with the chassis and 3-litre V12 TPO 16862 comp engine coming from the earlier 250 models, with minor details to the chassis being tweaked along with a new gearbox, an all-time great. Although the GTO name has been used by various Ferrari models since, none will ever match the legend of the original. While the GTO may be a legend, its opponent for today was a next generation design, the Porsche 904 Carrera GTS. While the 250 GTO may have it beaten in price hands down, as the 904 seems like a peasant at a price of just a mere $2.5 million compared, that may be partly due down to the fact Porsche actually built the required 100 cars, with 106 examples produced. Debuting in 1964, it quickly became a winner in its class, with wins at the Targa Florio with a 1-2 finish, and wins in the class at Spa, Sebring, Nürburgring, Le Mans, Canada, and even more, taking the esports title twice in 1964 and 65, as well as SCCA titles in 64 and 65. It even was used in rallying, with a second in 1965 at Monte Carlo and wins at the Alpine Rally, Geneva and more. The 904 became known for its exceptional reliability, with even a customer taking his fresh car to the Reims track for a race and going on to win without ever needing a single spare part. The 904 was in use with 3 2-litre engines in 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder and even 8-cylinder configurations. This particular version is the road car powered by the Type 587 quad cam flat 4, referred to as the most complex 4-cylinder ever, and used as a 5-speed gearbox. It isn't etched into history as much as other sports cars of the day, but I believe perhaps it should be. So, those are the cars. Cars only the tip top of the 1% will ever be able to afford, but thanks to the virtual world of Forza, we don't need to pay millions to drive these too. But which one is the best? Of course, the only way to find out is by taking these two to the Top Gear track, and we begin with the 1962 Ferrari 250 GTO 300 horsepower, 216 foot-pound torque, 2,299 pounds of weight. Now, interestingly enough, despite these two cars sharing categories, they are actually quite different in statistics. In fact, the Ferrari is 110 horsepower more powerful than the Porsche, however it weighs 800 pounds more than the Porsche, so this really is going to be the battle between power and weight. I will say, in terms of the Ferrari, it makes an absolutely fantastic noise. That V12 is excellent, and it spits flames as well. It looks awesome going around the track, but of course, while a car can look awesome going around the track, it might not be awesome to drive. As far as the 250 GTO goes to drive, well, it is modern day fast. And I mean that, this thing can probably keep up with 400, 500 horsepower cars of today if they are, relatively heavy. It is modern day fast, however it's slightly hampered by the fact this thing does have very long gears, because it's meant for endurance racing and going down long straights. I guess that's the reason for that, but the long gears do hamper its acceleration. You sort of saw it as it was getting off the line, it had a couple of issues. It's also a little bit on the floaty side in terms of its suspension. You'll sort of see it roll through the corners. Well, I'm sure in the 60s the suspension was very good. By today's standards, it is a little bit soft. But nevertheless, a pretty decent car to drive. Next up, we have the 1964 Porsche 904 Carrera GTS, 190 horsepower, 160 foot-pound torque, 1,488 pounds of weight. A pretty darn good power-to-weight ratio there. You also saw it as it got off the line. This thing launches very quick. I'm not 100% sure if this one's mid-engined or rear-engined. But it is rear-wheel drive, and of course with the engine being that far back, it does give it a better launch. Also, it has a much better gearbox than the Ferrari. It's a lot less long. The 904, wasn't really sure what to expect from this car. I've always quite liked the 904. I think it's a great looking car. But in terms of its driving, it really was a mystery. However, upon driving it, I have to say this thing is absolutely excellent to drive. I loved it. It's endlessly chuckable. It's one of those cars which you just all want to drive for hours on end because it's so much fun. It's just chuckable. It's excellent. Truly excellent. Turning grip's very good. The brakes are good. It's good in a straight line. It is an all-round fantastic car, especially for Top Gear. It suits this track really well. Out of the two cars driving-wise, this was easily my favourite. I adored driving the 904. You can sort of see through the corners as well. It's a very flat car. The suspension doesn't roll all that much, which was really surprising. It does actually feel like a modern day car, and yeah, I love driving the 904. And moving on to the times, well, it shows in the times how much better the 904 is, going into 129th place with a 122.019, beats out a Challenger Hellcat, Maserati 8CTF, a BMW M4. It's only slightly off of a Lotus Evora, which is a pretty good modern day equivalent to this car. Yeah, exceptional time from the 904, but the 250 GTO didn't do bad, although it is a fair way down in 157th place with a 123.907, goes in between a Ford Mustang and a Rolls-Royce Wraith. It is quicker than an R32 Skyline, an FPV Pursuit Ute, a Levante. Yeah, it can still definitely keep up with modern day cars, but if you want my opinion on which one's the best out of these two, it is easily the Porsche. And bear in mind that there is one PI difference between the Ferrari and the Porsche, and the PI is actually on the scale of the Ferrari. It's higher in the Ferrari, yet the Porsche is almost 2 seconds quicker. The Porsche is just, I am flabbergasted by that car. I love it, I love it, I love it. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching this edition of Forza Top Gear Laps Arrivals. Do hope you've enjoyed. Join us next time when I'm going to be taking a look at 2 German saloon cars with 2 very interesting engines. So join me for that. If you have any recommendations for Rivals episodes that you'd like to see, do let me know in the comment section, as well as main episodes. Join me on Tuesday, as always, for the main episode, where we're going to be taking a look at some sports saloons. And yeah, thank you for watching, and until next time, farewell.
Non ti andrai far pallone amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girando, belle belle turando e invitoso, narcisetto adancino d'amor. Belle belle turando e invitoso, narcisetto adancino.